Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Mindful Marathon Conversations. I am Michelle Quirk. I am a pediatrician and a run coach and founder of Mindful Marathon, where I help make running easy and fun for busy professionals. And today I have a very special guest with me. I have with me Ann Kent. She is a registered dietitian nutritionist and the founder and owner of Peas and Hoppiness. It's a great name. And she helps busy families to get dinner on the table in a very easy and wonderful way that works for busy lives with a plant-based focus. So we are going to talk today all about that, and I'm very excited to have her here. So thank you for joining us, Anne.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited to talk with your audience.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit about how you, became a dietitian and how you got into all of this, and a little bit about how Peas and Hoppiness started.
Absolutely. So I actually grew up on a farm in central Kansas, and I've loved food my whole life. My mom cooked, and she's still an excellent cook. And so actually I figured out that I wanted to go into dietetics when I was in high school. And so when I became a dietitian, I started to notice that there were these silos that existed. There was agriculture over here, my experience growing up on a farm. There was food. How do you cook? How do you grocery shop? How do you get it on the table? And then there was nutrition, like what is best for my body? And it seemed to me that these should all be connected, right? Like we should know where our food comes from and how to prepare it in a healthy way, but they sort of like existed in different arenas. And so I founded Peas and Hoppiness with the very lofty ultimate goal of helping to unite those silos, to help people understand what is good for their body, how to actually get it on the table without spending hours in the kitchen, and then to know where their food came from and make sure that we're eating sustainably and for the health of not just our bodies, but also the planet. So that's what I do using these weekly meal guides that I write. Is I create a weekly menu with plant-based, plant-forward options and they're all based seasonally to help people connect with their local farmers or connect with a local produce and make it sustainable and easy to actually get dinner on the table.
Yeah, I love what you do, and I love that you also test all of the recipes that you put out.
Yeah, I'm drinking one right now. It's an apple pie smoothie because it's fall, so that's what's on our menu this week.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. So Anne wrote for us. She wrote a guest blog piece that you can find on the website, and I will leave the link below. But it is called. It's about the Flexitarian Diet. So and this is a very interesting topic, and you may not have heard of the Flexitarian Diet. So tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll kind of go into what this means for runners.
Yes, the flexitarian diet is sort of an alternative to a strict vegetarian diet. So it's sort of perfect for the person who is interested in eating more plants and maybe a little bit less animal products, but is not quite ready to jump into complete vegetarian or complete vegan lifestyle. So they've done a lot of research to figure out what is the best eating pattern both for humans and also for the planet. And it can contain small amounts of meat, but much less than what a Western diet typically includes. So coming from Kansas and coming from the farm, I grew up with a very meat-centric, meat-heavy plate where, half of our plate was meat. And I found that, when you go out to a restaurant, that's what's served. It's very meat-centric. So a flexitarian diet helps people to sort of transition from that very meat-heavy focused eating pattern to start including more plant-based proteins or more plant-based options. So it's definitely sort of like an intro to vegetarianism without, being terribly extreme.
Yeah, I love that. I appreciate that it's flexible, and it's a gateway in. And we were talking kind of before about a lot of people have these thoughts about running too. It's sort of like all or none thinking. Like it either has to be all of this one thing, and we have to. If we are a runner, we must run half marathons and marathons, or we're not a runner. And I think it may be the same thing kind of with these different diets. Like we're either, all in, we're vegan, we're on keto or whatever it is. And this offers just a way in and a way to experience it a little bit differently. That's good for our bodies and good for the planet, which I think is what your mission is. Yeah.
Definitely.
Now, I know, so some of the objections that I can hear in my head are like from my running community. We're always worried about getting in enough protein. And
Mhm.
so if you, have a more plant-based diet, can you speak a little bit to protein sources and kind of how we can work that in so that we're still getting the fuel that we need and we're feeling full, but we are shifting the focus to plants?
Yes, I think that that's really common because when you see the food pyramid and you look at the protein, you see the chicken and the steak and the pork. So there are actually a lot of really high quality plant-based sources of protein. And contrary to a lot of people's belief, grains also have protein in them. They're not necessarily counted as a protein option when we're looking at the plate because they do have more carbohydrates, but they also contain protein. And so a lot of plant-based examples, not just tofu. I always like to say, like, I do include tofu on our vegetarian meal guide, but it is not the only plant-based source. So we'll see things like legumes, so lentils or red beans or black beans or white beans. I do use some cheese and some dairy products on the meal guides. And then I think it's kind of neat that there are a lot of legume-based pastas out there now. So I don't know if anybody's ever experimented with those, but those are another really great way to increase your protein level if you're having like a pasta dish. There's chickpea or lentil-based pastas like that. So there's a lot of options contrary to that belief.
Yeah, I love chickpeas. I've not tried chickpea pasta, but maybe I should because I love chickpeas.
Yeah, it has a little bit different texture, but yes, chickpeas I use those all the time. They're a great substitute for chicken in a lot of recipes.
Yes, I love like toasted chickpeas, like with a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of olive oil and like smoked paprika. Oh, they're really good.
Yeah, they're like great to snack on. There are so many options like that. It's really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love food too. I I grew up with an Italian grandma who loved to cook, but we did eat quite a lot of meat also. I would
Mm-hmm.
say we used to have pasta like once a week with homemade meatballs, but the other days of the week it was definitely meat was the thing on the plate as the main, Oh, I thought of a question while you were talking that we haven't talked about. How do you feel about like the Beyond Meats, like
Mm-hmm.
Beyond Burgers, or like they're made of,
Impossible Burger.
yes, the
Mm-hmm.
Impossible Burger, correct.
Yep.
I don't know, where do those fit in? I guess if you really are attached to meat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I do include products like that on the vegetarian meal guide. Some of like the vegetarian sausages or like vegetarian ground meat. Nutritionally, if you look at the label, they're close to what ground beef looks like, minus all
Okay.
of the saturated fat and cholesterol. So they're able to use some different types of oils. And then one of the benefits is that sometimes they actually also have fiber in them because fiber only comes from plant sources. Meat does not have fiber in it because it is a carbohydrate. So of course, the downside is that they're more processed because, I mean, just by the definition, we have to turn a food into a different food. So it's not something that I necessarily recommend as like a staple of the diet all the time. I love to focus on real whole foods, but I think that, products like that are a great, again, kind of a gateway into eating more plant-based options.
Yeah.
They're pretty expensive right now, but I think a lot of that is because of just the research and development that it takes to creating new products. But in terms of environmental cost and input costs, using a black bean based burger is much less expensive than growing the beef. I always like to say it takes less energy to eat the plant than it does to eat the animal that ate the plant. So just thinking in terms of like the food chain.
So true. Oh gosh, no, I appreciate your expertise on that, and the meal guides are wonderful. So yeah, tell us where we can find you, and you also have a freebie for us too.
Yes, absolutely. So I have an easy vegetarian substitutions guide. So if you are interested in sort of changing up some of your own recipes at home, I have some different tips like the chickpeas instead of chicken example. If you're substituting ground beef, for example, I like to use foods like mushrooms or black beans that have sort of a rich taste because meat has this flavor called umami. We have sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and we have this fifth sense, which is umami. And that's a very meaty, hearty flavor. So substituting for meats can be difficult, but that guide gives you at least a head start. Now, I do always recommend to use an actual vegetarian formulated recipe when you are trying to cook vegetarian food. And so that's why I've created these meal guides they're kind of like vegetarian fare for the non-vegetarian. Because I think if you have, I've worked with people who have been vegan for years and years and years, and they're like, oh, meat tastes terrible. Well, I don't think meat tastes terrible. I still like those flavors. And so if you are switching to that sort of a lifestyle, it's really important, I think, to honor those taste buds. So my meal guides and other resources and vegetarian recipes too can be found on my website, which is peasandhoppiness.com. That's Hoppiness like the beer, Hoppy, Hoppiness. So I like food puns as well,
I
as
love
well as actual food.
that. I love the name of your company. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing these pearls. And definitely check out the blog post if you haven't read it yet. It's really great, and all of Anne's links will be in the show notes here below in the description, and then also from the blog post, so you can connect with her. And I'm definitely going to sign up for the guide also.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was so fun. I love talking about food with other people who love food.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. If you liked it, please subscribe and share it with a friend. And if you are a newer runner or a runner who hasn't run in a while and you're looking to get back into the sport, you can find out how to work with me over on my website, which is mindful-marathon.com. See you on the next episode.